Good evening. We'll call the Committee of Whole meeting for Monday, February 6, 2023 open. And we'll start with the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you. Well, next is the reaffirmation of oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Next is the adoption of the agenda as presented or with amendments. Can I get a mover for that?
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Statements of conflict of interest. If anyone has a conflict of interest, they can hand their form into the clerk. Council, presentations of council. Councilor Carmichael.
Yes, I just want to bring to the table the discussion about the furniture at McDougall's auctioneer. I'm also wondering if we could counter-offer it because they're asking, I believe, $6,500, and I don't know if all other council are thinking that this is a good idea or not. The furniture's there. It'll be a lot easier for future business. If they came in, they would have their business. We could always include that in the price of the rent. But I'm just wondering what other councils' thoughts are on that.
I'm agreeing that we should leave the furniture and appliances in the rental space because it would be a bonus for anyone who's interested in renting it. Absolutely.
So could we make, maybe put it on the agenda for the regular meeting and maybe make a counter offer of 55? Yeah, it's 60 some, but if we counter offer it and bring it a little lower, maybe they'll take a little bit less.
I think 65 is probably a reasonable price. There's a lot of furniture there. I think 65 is a reasonable offer.
So we're going to make a motion for the next meeting to put it on the agenda? Yeah?
My second item is the budget, and we had a session on the government of the finances last Wednesday night, and a lot of things came to my attention, which I thought was very, very interesting. The thing is that came up is that the budget should be worked on now, but we can't do that because we need to put our CAO in place and strategic planning. We need to do that before we go forward with that. And I think those two items needs to be done as soon as we can, and that's, but also make sure that we have the right people in place. What we need to start thinking about is getting a plan on what we want to see done and start planning for the following years. I know that the person that was speaking on the seminar the other day was saying that they do a 5-year plan. So if there's anything they want to do, they do like, for our case, we have 2023 over, but we could do 2024 to 2028. But the 3 years we have left on council, we could look at the 3 things that we are priority, and then if the next council or whoever is here, they can decide to do what they need to do for the following 2 years. But if they like what we have on there and starting, they could leave it there. This is what's done at other location, and I think it's a great idea. Even if we don't have all the numbers from the province, we can still do the bulk of the budget and make necessary adjustments in October when those numbers come in, and take a look at what we can and cannot be done. It's very interesting that this year, like the budget needs to be done by the 15th and like November 15th. So if we had everything in line, and if we had a start of a budget for the following year, and a budget, you work with a budget normally all year, we would have to start our meetings when things are in place. A budget is going on, work long-term budget. There are things that will come up every year that has to be done on our budget, plus any of the things we want to see done and is started. We need to have the CAO and start looking at managing and planning. We need to strategic plan and focus on 2 or 3 items that we really like to see done. We all have things we want done, like for some of the councilors, is Rory's point, affordable housing, and that's just 2 of the things that I'm throwing out there. In some of the area some of the locations put money for projects that they know they're going to do in advance in the future. And it's a good idea. Let's say if we wanted to maybe reno our arena in 4 or 5 years down the road, and if we put money aside to do that, then it wouldn't be such an impact when the work needs to be done. I'm just using the arena for an example, but it could be anything. It could be, and anything that we also decide to do on projects, we also have to think of the maintenance of these projects, because, we're going to do Roydy's Road, and let's say if we did something down there like a trail, we need to have money put aside every year for maintenance of these things. And I'm just talking a small thing, but it's like anything else. We got to look at the bigger picture when we plan anything, because maintenance is also goes with any new projects that we decide to go on. Also, after the budget is done, anything that we want to do in the future, if it's not in the budget, we need to control our decisions and budget and see where we can get the money. Because, sometimes you decide you want to do one thing, and then there's something else that says, oh, I'd like to do this, but you also need to know you got to work with the budget, what we planned on that year. The best practice of anything is the budget and don't wait for an amount. We get the number from the province. We all have to, the projects needs to be completed by November, and we want it this year. I'm hoping that we can have that budget done, and before, even late October or beginning of November would be great to have our budget approved and out of the way. So that way that would be a stress. But if we start working on it in April and May, once things start falling into place, that'd be great. So that's just thoughts, but the session was a good session, and really, it's nothing that I didn't hear before, but it's, every time you hear it, it kind of just flares more things in your head and clarifies things that needs to be done earlier. So that's what I have on that. Thank you.
If I may, Your Worship, did anyone else on council attend that seminar?
I was unable to.
So was I.
Attend
I
last
was not able
Wednesday.
to attend, but
No.
I'm just wondering. Yeah. So so Councillor Carmichael was the only one who took it that day, or? And
Nicole, yeah.
our staff members?
Yeah, it was online. Every Wednesday, we had gotten an email. Every Wednesday, there's different seminars, and I booked myself on for all of them.
So it's obvious, then, in my opinion, that was well said. Thank you.
First one is in regards to the snowmobile trails. I've been contacted, it's been brought to my attention from a few different people, that the snowmobile trails are not currently coming into the village to allow the snowmobiles to access local businesses, or in some cases to allow local residents easy access to the groomed trails. So I'm just wondering if it's possible that maybe we could reach out to the snowmobile club to find out what the issue is, if there is one. I just feel as though since we are, in a position where we've been helping the Skidoo Club for a number of years with the costs associated with the groomer, that I feel like our residents should, be able to access those trails, and that it would be nice to have those trails coming out to be able to help support our local businesses for people outside of the community. So that's, I guess, what I'm looking for, is to see about someone reaching out to them to find out what the problem is, if they need access to land that they don't have available, because it's my understanding that right now the only place it comes out is at Dan's Gas Bar, which there's no longer a gas bar there. And what was the other place? The Board Whale, which is great, but there's no access for our downtown core. So that's what I would like to see. As well, we had the same discussion about the four-wheelers, which I think it's important for that as well. But yeah, so that's for that. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
I just want to ask, so the trails that they use in the winter would be the same trails they use in the summer? I don't know.
No, the snowmobile trails and the ATV trails are different. Yeah, yeah.
You would be requesting the trails for both the ATVs and the snowmobiles directed to the downtown core?
Yeah, like tonight I'm just dealing with the snowmobile trail because we've discussed the ATV one previously, and that's gonna take, I guess, some changes with bylaws and that type of thing. But for these trails, I think it used to come out, I think you used to be able to come out by the drugstore, and now you're not, so I'm not sure what the issue is. And I know, like, if they can come out by the drugstore, well, then they can access the drugstore, they can access the Clover Farm, they can access, there's an Airbnb there now. So, there's some other things too. I would also like for them to be able to access the Superette. Maybe they want to come and get a slice of pizza or chicken or something, right? So I guess it would be up to the Skidoo Trail as to how, I know the trail crosses Jacket River Drive. So from there, I don't know how exactly they'd be able to get to the Superette. Maybe that would be a more difficult one, but I do know that it should be pretty easy to get to Clover Farm drugstore area because there used to be a trail that went there before. Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's what I'm looking for, I guess, is just a village representative to reach out to find out.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, but I'm just wondering, I suppose maybe the landowners would be the ones that might have stopped that, but I'm not sure. But it's a good idea that this should be able to get to the Superette or any of these local businesses for requirements. I'm sure the local people would know how to get on and off the trails because, they know those trails like inside of their hand.
It's not so much as knowing how, but like even myself, for example, like we paid for trail passes, but in order to get to the trail, we have to get to the pipeline. Well, to get to the pipeline, we have to break our own trail because there's no place down in this area that they bring the trail out to someplace accessible. So that can and that can be an issue sometimes too when you're breaking your own trail and it's snowing or storming. I wouldn't have believed it if it hadn't happened to me, but I got lost in a field behind my house because it was snowing so bad I couldn't see, and the trail wasn't packed, and we had to follow the tree line, and I was starting to panic. But yeah, so that can be an issue, and I just feel like if we as taxpayers are paying for the groomer and are willing to, buy the trail passes and support the club and everything else, which I'm all for, then it would be nice to be able to have easy access to those trails. And as far as for the landowner, I've spoke with the landowner and there's no issue there. Yeah.
Can I just say, I think the problem with coming off the main trail is that the groomer's not insured once it leaves their own trail. So I think the business owners need to apply to the local club and then to the provincial overseer, whatever that organization is. And that's how they cut the trails. So they'll approve a trail and then the groomer can be insured to go on those. But I think that's the problem right now is insurance coming off of their main trails.
Okay, well, maybe we can get some clarification then and go from there. My next one kind of came to me in a discussion we had here in a meeting that Ron had brought up about some water flowing issues down here by the, by Curry Drive, I guess. And the village owns a piece of property down there. And I'm thinking if we were to plant trees onto it, it would help with some of that water issue. As well, it would create a windbreak for in that turn because it drifts really badly there. Not to mention, it would, be great for the environment, and the wildlife. And I would really like to see it turned into some sort of a community project where, we can involve the seniors in planting maybe, maybe the school kids come down and plant. It could even be a memorial garden where people, sponsor the tree and then in memory of a loved one. It's not like, there's a lot of different things we could do with it. And nothing is, it's something we could discuss and come up with, but I would really like to see that piece of property planted. And I'm thinking that there would be federal and provincial grants or funding to do that because, it's a green project and what better place to put it than down there in that industrial area? I think we could use all the help we get in that area. So yeah, I want to bring that up and see what you guys thought of it.
I like that idea. I think it's a great idea, especially having the memorial. That would entice a lot of people to get involved as well. No, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm sure there's probably people we can contact or to be able to do that, but it's a good idea for the trees, yeah.
Okay, and then my next one is from a meeting that Brenda and I sat in with the, what was the name? Peter Corbin? No, I'm not sure if that was his name, but anyway, it was from the New Brunswick Housing Association, and you guys must remember where we put out the survey for housing needs. Well, we've suggested that they collect data from some of the local businesses. So basically, if the local businesses are saying, yeah, we're going to be hiring 200 people within the next 5 years, well, then that is another indicator that we are going to need housing. So they're willing to provide the survey and that type of thing. So I didn't want to move forward with that until I spoke to you guys. And the other thing is that they are willing to remember when we went to the conference in Fredericton and they're coming out with this website where you can see where there's land available? They want to put some of our land on there, on that map. So I think it's a great idea. I just want to, check in with you guys beforehand. And he did mention too in our meeting that the property that he felt was most best suited for a housing development would be that property on Jacket River Drive. So, yeah. Does anybody have an issue with that? Is that something that I can reply to him and say that we're good to go on, or?
I personally don't have an issue. At least he has an area that he would focus on with that in mind. So I think if that's the location that he's looked at and thought that could work, I think it's a good idea to put it out there, for sure.
I agree, it's a good idea to put it out there, but do we need a vote for that, or we can just do that on our own without a voting? I'm just wondering, maybe put it on the, it's not that it's going to cost any money, I don't think, but I'm just wondering if it should pass as a motion of council to do it? Does somebody know the?
The point that you're just putting it on that site doesn't mean you're advertising it for sale or you're doing anything like that. It's just that if it's up there and a developer did become interested, that's the time they would approach the village about it. And then you would have to make motions accordingly, I would think. This is just basically putting it on a site.
Thank you for clearing that for me. I just want to make sure.
Are we okay with collecting the data from the local, from a few of the businesses as well? Everybody's okay with that? Yeah, okay. All right, I guess that was it for me then. What's that? Oh, where is it? Oh, there. Okay, hold on. Okay, so for the newsletter, it's been brought to our attention that there are times when people would like to advertise businesses in our Beldoon Messenger, which we don't really want it to turn into an advertisement page, but I thought having a listing in there of local businesses would be a good idea, especially like for newcomers, even people who live here. I'm sure there are probably businesses out there right now that are local businesses that some of us are unaware of. It'd be a good way to get the data collected. And the information could also be transferred over onto our website. And we can also, have a section where if there's a new business, well, then we can kind of highlight that, congratulations on the new business, and then have it as the first, or in a little, first in line on that listing, and then the next month move it in with the rest or something like that. But just to give everybody fair and equal opportunity, I think it's important to know what local businesses we have. But, you don't want to single anyone out, and you don't want to give anyone preferential treatment because, we want to support all of the businesses, so I think this is an easy and fair way to do it. And so I guess we're looking to give Nicole direction on that.
I have no problem on doing that. I think it's a good idea. Once on the website, we only need to update it when there's something new or changes. And for the newsletter, it's there, and you're right, everybody gets it in every home. So, if there's something there and you're wondering, and a newcomer, then they can see that. Or people that's been here may not know there's certain businesses out there that they might require down the road.
If I may, Your Worship, I'd like someone to explain to me, that at the end of the day, the newsletter, and I have no problem with Councillor Corrier's idea of listing businesses in our newsletter, but the newsletter was designed not to, allow people to advertise. So I just don't quite understand the advertisement that is already in that newsletter. I'm just wondering if, in my opinion, we're already doing that. So another business, if they wanted to advertise in there, would have, again, in my opinion, justification to say, why is that business allowed to advertise and I am not? So I'd need someone to explain to me why this advertisement is in the newsletter. And I recognize if no other business has asked, well, there's not a problem. Obviously, these people have asked and got in the newsletter. But in my opinion, they should never have been allowed in the newsletter to begin with. But they're there now and have been there for quite a while. So my question is, can someone explain to me what is the difference between this business and any other business who wanted to advertise in our newsletter? Because I don't see it.
Okay, if I can speak on this? Okay, so for the last few years, you're right, when the newsletter was developed, it was to put information out for the municipality, for nonprofit organizations, etc. When people were sending stuff to the librarian and she would ask if this was okay or that was okay, I wouldn't say yes or no. I would refer it to the CAO at the time. The CAO at the time would decide for each issue or item that came up, what to do, what not to do. So the other day, when it came to me, I asked council, I sent out an email to council asking, what do I do with this advertisement? And I got one response back. I had to get the messenger out. It was Wednesday. I had to get it out. It takes 6 hours to copy. So I left it in. I asked for a policy for the newsletter because to me it's not fair just to make a decision as to whoever it is or whatever they want. There should be a policy in place where we know what goes in and what doesn't go in, and the librarian knows what goes in and what doesn't go in. That was what I was asking. And that is why certain ads went into the newsletter. Certain things went into the newsletter, certain things didn't. So that's where it is, and now that we had to make a decision, I felt that it wasn't on me to make that decision because the CAOs had made it in the past and it was on a piece per, each time there was something else that was added, I would question it. And that's how it went.
So I have no problem with that explanation. I have no problem recognizing that it is not the staff's decision as to what is or is not put into that newsletter. I have no argument whatsoever with your explanation of that issue. What I am questioning is, I would think council would need to make a decision as to, are we taking this one out or are we allowing others to advertise? So for example, and I'm not picking on, let's say, Clover Food, but maybe the next thing you know, we'll have flyers in there, they're advertising their weekly specials and so on and so on. And that could happen, and justifiably so, or, the pharmacy could be advertising there, or any business within our community. So, I'm just wondering where council stands on it, and is this the approach we're going to take? And at the end of the day, I agree 100% that if this is the direction we're going, then we should have a policy developed to make it clear what is and what is not acceptable.
I know last year we put out a welcome booklet, and there was a listing of local businesses in that booklet. So I'm just thinking, we do have something there. So I don't know if we want to update it and attach it somehow to a document or the messenger at one point. But this is a listing of all local businesses that submitted information when we were putting the welcome booklet together. So that might be something we can look at, as well as updating it and maybe putting it out there for everyone. I'm not sure how everyone feels about that.
I feel that, just listing, not listing all the local business would be sufficient. Not their flyers and stuff like that. That it would be going a bit far. But as for just adding the local businesses in there, a page, I don't think we'd have more than a page if we put it down there and it's just printed monthly. But yeah, I think that that's a good idea, just listing the businesses and what we have available in our area.
Hi there. I just want to give you an update about what's going on with the events committee. February 20th is Family Day, and we have the arena booked from 1 to 4 for a family skate party with free hot dogs and hot chocolate. So everyone is welcome. Just make sure you bring your helmet and your skates and dress warm, because it should be a fun afternoon. Also, with the events committee, plans are underway for Beldoon Days, and the return of one of our major events for this year is coming back. So everyone will be happy to hear that. But like every other entity, we are really looking for volunteers. When you have an events committee who tries to organize events in our village, it's really hard for the same people to be doing all the work. So I'm putting a call out if anybody is interested in joining the events committee or coming out to our meetings. There's one on Monday, the 13th of February. And just come out and give some input or some directive or what you'd like to see. Also, I'm just going to put this out there on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day. We will be hosting a St. Patty's Day dance at the rec center that evening as well. So that's it for the events committee. Does anybody have input?
I just wanted to ask, so I'm not clear as to what the arrangement is with the events committee. So for example, if somebody wants an event to take place, do they show up to the, like, how does that work? Do I go to the events committee meeting and ask to have it? And then Like, let's just say, for example, it was something that required a bit of money to, let's say I want to have a dance, for example, and it's going to require a bit of money for, let's say, I want to serve food or something, and the fire department's going to do the bar. Do I go to the events committee and say, this is what I want to do, and then the events committee does it? Or do I go to the events committee and say, this is what I want to do, can I get this amount from the events committee budget to hold my event? And then I can either ask for assistance if I need volunteers or find my own, like, how does that work if somebody wants to do something?
We haven't come across that yet. However, I can understand, like, if someone came to the events committee and brought something forward, I'm sure that we would be able to work with another group or organization to help assist with their event somehow, but that's something that we haven't really come across. So if that's a great topic to be brought at our meeting on the 13th.
I'm wondering if maybe that is kind of hindering volunteers, is that they don't know what the process is, what the involvement is, what the, what the commitment is. So maybe that's something that we could get clarification on and kind of put that information out there. If you want to host an event, come to the events committee and we can help or we can assist or but I don't know if that's even how it works. Like, so if I don't know how it works, do you know how it works? Okay.
There is a bylaw.
Okay.
And the bylaw states, I mean, they're there to oversee, but they don't have the control over, say, per se, giving money to an organization or granting money to an organization. Anything like that would have to come back to council. And I believe there was some, one of the trainings that went on, there was discussions around those types of things. And when you have committees and stuff, that's all a committee really is supposed to do, is give recommendations to council. The final decisions on anything are supposed to be council's decisions. Their committees only make recommendations.
So like, for example, this St. Patrick's Day dance, are you saying then that that should come to council and we should vote as to whether or not they're going to have the St. Patrick's Day dance?
Under the mandates that it's supposed to be recommendations, but I'm not saying that that should be every event that they come. So basically, if your committee had a plan for the year, or even a plan for 6 months, and they had several events that they wanted to do within the 6 months, they could come and get one motion of council for those 6 events, with some idea of what the costs were and kind of those type of things. So under regular, that's all committees are supposed to do, is give recommendations. They don't have decision-making powers.
So basically then if somebody else wanted to come, they would go, if they wanted to host something or do something for a community event, they would go to the events committee. Then the events committee would come bring that motion to council to make a recommendation as to whether or not council should grant it? Would that be right?
I guess it's more, it comes down to the spending of money. What it comes down to, it comes down to the spending of the money and how it's spent and where it's spent.
So if it was something that just required use of the rec center but didn't require budget, then the events committee can just say, sure, you can have it on this date.
Yeah, because I believe even on the rec and wellness coordinator, we have a policy in place for fundraisers and stuff like that, that the rec center could be used free. Those are things that fall under.
So really then, the way that events committee should be set up is like anybody who wants to do anything, say within the next 6 months or year, they wouldn't have to go to every events committee meeting. They could go, bring forth their idea, that would be put on the agenda to be brought, once council gives the okay for that 6-month span or whatever. Because that's another thing that I think hinders volunteers is not everybody wants to go to a meeting every month when, say, for example, they want to have one event in Beldoon during Beldoon days. Do you know what I mean? So maybe things like this is, we could maybe get more volunteers if people know that, hey, if there's something you want to have within the next year, whatever it may be, a horseshoe tournament or ball hockey or pickleball or whatever, then, yeah.
I know they did plan a meeting on the 31st of January for anyone who's interested in volunteering or submitting ideas for Beldoon Days. And I think one person showed up. So it is hard. It's difficult. I know that. But the more people who come and attend and give ideas, and then we can move on more things. But yeah, it's not been easy. And any organization can tell you that. The same people do the same work, and it is difficult. Thanks.
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, I have been involved in Beldoon Days with 3 activities through the Royal Canadian Legion, which I will say is the last non-profit organization left in the village of Beldoon. But with that said, I did have a question raised to me. I received a call from one of the chairpersons of Beldoon Days, and I think I'm going to wait until the meeting Monday night, because I'm going to confirm that I will be there, because I wish to see and hear what the decisions of the committee will be on that conversation. But by the same token, I don't want to sound mysterious. I just want to say that it was something I was not in agreement with, either as a counselor or as an organizer of an event. But I will certainly respect the decisions that the committee makes, and that's why I will be attending to make sure that my views as a Legion member and not a council member are heard. And with that said, if the things do not, let's say, materialize the way I believe they should, then I will have it on the public meeting the following Monday night.
But from what we've just said, that it's not up to the council, it's not up to the committee to make the decision. It's up to the committee to bring the information forward, correct?
I don't think it's meant to be that every little decision they gotta make. Like I said, it's more about a planning. Like I said, if they plan for 6 months of events and come in with that information, and council can make one motion to say the committee has presented a report, they made the recommendation of such and such and such, and either you accept it all, you accept part or whatever. But it's not like every time they want to do something, because that just don't fit with council meetings, right? They would never get anything done. So it's about having a more of a 6 month or a year plan on the events they would like to put on. And
But I don't like the idea of the committee being able to say yes or no if a resident wants to, approaches them and says, here's an event I'd like to do, well then, I don't think it should be up to them to say yes or no, just because they don't like the idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, why should only certain members of the community get to hold events and somebody else not? Like, I can understand if there's an issue, whatever, but otherwise then it's kind of just, oh, I don't like you, so I'm going to say no. Like, I don't want it to fall into that, So,
I think kind of just go back and review the bylaw that was prepared. And I think the bylaw was prepared with the intent of the committee looking after municipal events. Beldoon Days, Canada Day, those type of things. It was meant for that purpose, to organize and do those. Anything separate from that, that would be a different mandate, so I said, review your bylaw, be very important.
Okay.
And then if you want to change that bylaw to expand it, or if the other thing is the person just wants to do an event and they really don't need the committee, it's just a matter of getting the rec center and those type of things, then if they're looking for money, that's a different thing, that comes back to council. But if it's the use of the facility, Mr. Culligan has been awarding those out anyhow, so.
all right, sounds good.
If I may, Your Worship, just a comment in defense of the committee, and I believe it is in defense of the committee. The committee spends a tremendous amount of time organizing events, and some events have become annual, if I want to say it that way. And those events are staged at usually on all the same dates. And, I'll give an example. The Legion has its hoedown on Friday night. And, the beer gardens is the last Saturday night of the event. And then we have the fireworks on Sunday night. And I believe, here at the church here, they have a grocery bingo on Sunday night, the first Sunday night or Monday night, whatever it might be. So my point to all this is to say that, people can come with ideas, but sometimes they conflict with events that have been going on for years. And, for one reason or another, they may not be able, they may say, well, look, if I can't do my event on that night, well, I can't do it. So those are some of the things that could happen and have materialized in the past. And, I just think that a lot of people have become accustomed to, for lack of a better expression, that their night for their activity, and that's the night they have stuck with. And I've been involved in it for at least 15 or 16 years now, and at the end of the day, many of the events are held on the same night annually. So that could be a reason that someone coming in will say, well, that's the only night I can do it, and it's already been booked by someone who's been doing an event for years. So.
On that note, Beldoon Days is July 31st to August 6th this year, which is different because unfortunately, our calendar says that New Brunswick Day is August 1st, which is a Tuesday, and that is wrong. It is actually Monday, August the 7th, which is New Brunswick Day. I just wanted to clarify that, okay? The next thing I'd like to speak about is our youth organization. We have a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 at the rec center, and we are encouraging all youth and parents to come and discuss and give us some input on how we move forward with trying to organize a youth program in our community. I'd like it to help us engage them and make it a safe environment. So we are having a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 at the rec center. Everyone is welcome to come to give their input. This is our first, so we'll see how that one goes. Okay, and I had a request from the fire department last week. One of the deputy chiefs was approaching me about a couple of courses, one of them being that he was looking to see if there's any way that the fire department could train one of their own to do first aid training just with the fire department for their new recruits and to update their yearly certificate. It's a course that the individual, I believe he gave me a price of $700 for this person to be trained from the fire department to only teach first aid with the fire department and new recruits that are coming in. I know that that could be a conflict with a local person who does them, but this was just a request on their part, and I said, well, I would bring it up to council. So, anybody have any ideas?
I'm just going to speak to that quickly. I did get in touch with one of the places that does trainer instructions to instruct the trainers. And it's not just as simple as taking that course. There is more to it. And right now with the Canadian Red Cross, you can go through the course, but you also need to have, it's called a training partner, and there's only a few in the province. And if you could take the course, but if you don't have the training partner, you can't give the courses. And in regards to equipment, it's estimated like you would need at least 12 mannequins and 6 AEDs and stuff, and that's over $6,000. So it's just, it's not just that simple, but I can give you the information I have, like, that she sent me, and her courses are in French, but in English, they're in Moncton. So I'll give you her number if you want to reach out and verify what I'm telling you. This, that unless the deputy chief knows of a different way to go, I don't know.
I just have a quick question on that. Don't we give CPR to all of our casual employees yearly? Wouldn't it be a way to fit these new recruits at that time in May when it's given? I suppose it would be hard because sometimes the recruits are later in the year or a different time of year, but just a thought, like, if we could gather everybody to do the CPR together, and that way it'd be a group thing instead. It's not individual, I think, that you just want it for the new recruits. But I know there's CPR given every year here.
My understanding was he just was requesting that maybe they should have one on the force that has that certification.
But he could go into those classes in May. that's given normally in May and get the CPR there, and then it would be a group thing.
Within the department to be trained to give the CPR course. And his other request was that our local fire department has one licensed first responder on our department. He was thinking maybe to have a few more would be a good idea, because not all of them are trained to be a first responder. He was trained not through the village, but through his work company. I'm not sure what it entails. However, they can legally do more than the fire department arriving on a scene of an accident. That's my understanding. But he was just inquiring to see if the fire department could possibly get a couple more trained on being a first responder at a site.
I'm just wondering how does, like, wouldn't that be up to the fire department? Would,
In actuality, any of these trainings should be gone, he should be speaking to his chief. The fire chief is the head of that organization, and then they go up the line to them. So any trainings or anything like that, and especially for these first responder, that should all go to the chief. And if the chief will make a determination on that and check his budget to see what he has available for the year and things like that. So everything should come through the chief. He's the top of that organization, and he should be the one that is aware of all this and making those decisions. And if he needs something from council, he would come back with it, but they have a training budget.
Yeah.
So it's within their jurisdiction, it's within the chief's jurisdiction to have those discussions with his members.
I did forward the information to the chief,
Yeah,
but
the deputy chief should be going to
Yeah.
the chief and not to council for those stuff. They should be talking to their chief.
I was trying to get clarification, but I didn't. That's it for me. Thank you.
If council was still with the ATV trail bylaw, if it's something that they wish to start having worked on, I speak to Mr. Willett Longo, and he can help us with that process. The only thing that's lacking is which plan, and I did use Mr. Collins' 3 plans that he had submitted. If council want to choose one of them for the streets they want to include in their bylaw, or if they have a different plan, but we can't really start it until we have clear direction on which streets that council want to include, and then we can start working on the bylaw.
that'd be a yes from me. Yeah. And I think the roads that Mr. Collins has indicated would be the appropriate ones. And one other thing I wanted to mention too is that we need parking up there at the start of that ATV trail. And because right now there's no place, if somebody was trailering their ATV, there's no place there for them to park at the end of that trail. My thought is possibly we could have parking down by the salmon barrier. So we'd have to put up signs letting them know, because my thought is that in the summertime, you've got people at the salmon barrier 24/7, so now there's somebody there to watch, to make sure. Go ahead.
I didn't hear which one of the plans of Mr. Collins, like there was 3.
Oh, well, he has, I think there's like, yeah, he has he has the Archibald Road, it has a Main Street, Archibald Road section, like all 3 pages, it's all different roads, right?
Yeah, it's just,
So it'd be all 3 pages. Good?
oh, just 1 second there, I'm trying to
Okay.
get there. So, it's to, include the Jacket River Drive, that was plan number 1.
Yep.
And a Main Street from the Superette up to, well, it said Clover Farm, Culligan's Takeout.
Yep.
And then it would be down to Pump House Road. The other one with the Pump House Road, I said we don't own it, so there would have to be some agreement of some sort there. The second was the the ATVs would be able to come right out, well, that means they would have to come right down the Mitchell Road to get the Lawler Road, and then out to the pipeline again, which is on private property, which would have to be, and the Quinn Road, that's municipal to a certain area. And then the Archibald Road, the Archibald Road, the trail comes out, I think where it shows number 10. So that would be right back to where the snowmobile club is, and then the Archibald Road right out to the main road. So you want all of Jacket River Drive, all of Archibald Road, Mitchell Road coming out to the Lawler section and going out the Lawler Road, and then there's, like I said, there's a couple, no? Mr. Collins is shaking his head, so it's
Maybe
his
he can,
plan, so.
maybe he can clarify then, because it's his plans. You want to come and clarify?
My suggestion would be, I know we'd like to incorporate them all, but we're gonna be putting too much kilometers on public roads for public safety. We need to, I'd say our main objective, personally anyway, that's your guys' decision, would be Jacket River Drive, Main Street. Let's get this one here. Then after that, if the cafe is still here, that could be the second one. Then if the gas bar opens up, maybe we can put the two of them together and become one. But for now, we should be looking at, the main one right now would be Jacket River Drive, Main Street, because that'll give you 95% of the businesses in the village. And for public safety, like I say, the more kilometers that you're asking for on public roads, public safety is real stingy on that.
But the thing is that they're already using the roads. Like,
Legally.
yeah, so the Archibald Road one, I don't really see as much of a need for that one, because there is a trail that goes through the woods and through the field to get to that gas station, and most people, the local people around here know about it. So if the people that are on the other trail, if they don't, well, you know, not much we can do about that right now. But also the one from the pipeline back to the Mitchell Road, that allows access from anybody living down this way to be able to access that trail. So they'll be able to access the trail legally instead of illegally. So I think that one is an important one as well, to be able to come up that pipeline and then hit the Lawler Road and then go up the Mitchell Road to connect with that trail. So I think those would be our two, the Jacket River Drive and the Mitchell Road one would be our two.
Okay, so Jacket River Drive, like the full length of Jacket River Drive, right out. And then the main street would be like from around where the Superette campground is up to, like you say, the Mac Street there around the fire
Yep.
station. And then coming out of Mitchell, right down to where the Lawler Road connects.
Yep, and then
And
down
coming
the
down,
Lawler Road
and
to
it's, the only
pipeline.
thing that's gonna slow that up is the authority to do it along the pipeline.
Okay, well, even if the pipeline is not, part of it for right now, people are gonna use it anyway. They've been
So
using
the
it for.
Lawler, Mitchell.
Yeah.
Jacket River Drive and the Main Street, they're kind of like four sections right there now, that's on municipal streets. So we can start working with the bylaw from that. The other part I was thinking about the parking, when you were saying, that's the parking from,
So right now, when you go up Jacket River Drive and the
Yes.
ATV trail starts, like right there, they have a sign that says it's the start of the trail, but there's no parking there. So if anybody can't access the trail and they have to trailer their bike there's no place for them to park and unload and leave their vehicle while they're off.
but if they do the Jacket River Drive, they can.
Where?
No, I mean, they won't need it, they can go right directly with the ATV.
Well, no, not necessarily, because let's say somebody is from away.
Okay.
And they're bringing, you know what I mean, a lot of times, like, say somebody is coming to stay at the cabins and they're bringing their ATV and they're gonna trailer, you know what I mean, like, I'll give you an example, like the May Day run. The Skidoo Club parking lot is filled with vehicles and trailers, because people will trailer their bikes.
Yeah, maybe I'll ask Mr. Lett if they can kind of, maybe there's a possibility they might, because I know if they get down to Salmonberry, there's not a lot of room down there, so if they get several vehicles with trailers on.
I
it's
thought
gonna-
maybe they could park along the road, like, kinda like, I wanna say parallel parking, but it would be just kinda turn around and then park facing out, do you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
foresee there being a huge
Anyhow,
number.
I'll ask them if they can address the idea of
Yeah,
parking.
just to see what.
Just to see, okay.
You know, and then it wouldn't hurt even to put some, some ramps, so that people can just back their truck up or back their trailer up, and then there's already ramps there and just unload and go. Yeah,
If I may,
yes.
the reason why I always talking about legally,
So just for an example, if there's an accident that happens on the pipeline, it would be the insurance of the ATV owner that would,
if, no, because the land, he's illegally driving on private property.
is that private property, that road?
Pardon?
I'm wondering, is that private property, that pipeline road?
It doesn't really belong to Glencore or Noranda or Falcon, whoever, or down the line. There's lease agreements signed from back in the 60s with all those property owners that, back in the day, who was the first one? Brunswick, was it Noranda, Brunswick Smelting? The first ones came in there. There's a lease on all of those properties that they had to run their pop.
So now does it
Pipeline.
work the same with the snowmobiles because they groom the trail? Do you know something?
I won't go, I do.
Okay.
Experience with that. Would you like me to speak to that?
Could you?
One of my good friends, Dale Smear, does a lot for the Snowmobile Club. He asked the Snowmobile Club if they would groom a trail down to Gwynn Road so they could get to my business. And he, after giving them years and years and years of use of his garage, always asked me, what can we do for you, Dale? What can we return to you? He said, it's easy. Put a trail down to Antique Spots. The answer was, from the Snowmobile Club, we can't. We're only insured on the trails that are part of the New Brunswick Trail System. So what happened was, even though they felt they owed Dale Smear many, many favors, they couldn't come. It took me 8 months of applying through the New Brunswick Snowmobile Club and the local club to get the trail to my store. That happened through an application process. It can happen the same thing for Superette, for Clover Farm, for every business, if they can justify why that trail should come to their business. For us, the cafe was not enough. Our cottages became the reason why they would come to us.
Okay.
So, unfortunately for Clover Farm, the liquor store is not a good reason for snowmobiles. The grocery store is a really good idea. Superette, food, it's a really good idea. So that trail should go to those businesses, it should be applied for, and it should happen. But that groomer will not leave. I watched another meeting where, you talked about the town site, where the groomer should go maybe and do the trails for the snowshoers and the cross-country skiers. It can't happen because that groomer is only insured when it's on an approved trail. So this year, after 8 months, we were able to get that groomer to come to our store, to our business. That's what they need to do.
So now do you know what would happen if the ATV club was to apply for that, for the pipeline? how does that work when it's already a Skidoo trail?
I can tell you next year because that's what we're going after next. Like, I think that should happen next. I think the groomers should come to those businesses in this village that have benefit.
But I'm wondering though, how do you have the ATVs and the snowmobiles on the same trail?
They're not on the same trail, they're different trails now.
Okay.
And it'll be a different trail that, ATVs come, you know, since we were approved for a trail and the groomers started coming, we've had 12 snowmobiles. The profit that we received was not worth the effort we put out. We believe once the cottages are up, we have more cottages, planned for next year. We believe that that will grow into it. Also, we believe that the snowmobile trail needs to come to our store, or the ATV trail needs to come to our store. Right now, they're coming, and I almost think the locals are coming almost illegally to our store. I want to look at how they come to our store legally. How do we get the trails? For us to get the snowmobiles, I had to approach the Clorens. I had to get permission from the Clorens to cross their land after they crossed the tracks on Quinn Road. I went through those efforts, and we need to look at all of those to get both of those trails going to the key businesses in our community. That's where we need to get.
Okay. So we have a common goal then. So, I guess,
The more we have, and it was brought up tonight, it's not about the locals. The locals know how to get to my store, and they already come. It's the people who come away. The people who are booking the Airbnbs are not from here. They're from Moncton, they're from Nova Scotia, they're coming here.
like, see, I get that from the business perspective. I get that's what the business owners want, is the people from away to increase their business. I get all of that. But the other side of that, I'll say like Ron, is that as local residents and our tax dollars are going to pay for this bridge and to pay for this groomer and to pay for these trails and that type of thing, we should be able to access them. We should be able to get there without fear of getting a ticket on the Mitchell Road because there's no other way to get there from my house.
You're right.
So that's the part that, it's kind of a,
And I agree completely.
Yep.
And if you solve that, my business will increase.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so will the Super Ed, and so will Clover Farms, and so will the new gas station that's gonna be built at Dan's site.
Yeah, so it's all common goals. So I think, if we can, the sooner we can start the process of getting these trails up and going, I think the better it'll be for all of us, so,
I believe so.
yeah. So you're now my new point of contact for that, the two of you.
Just a question, if I may, Your Worship. Mr. Collins has presented some, very positive business plans on street development, and I have no issues with that whatsoever. My only question is the plan to work hand in hand with Jacques Golette?
Mr. Schuller, ATV Club.
Yeah.
You gotta remember one thing. This region, territory is the Schuller ATV
Yeah.
Club. Jacques Ouellette works for Quad NB, for the New Brunswick ATV Federation. The Schuller Club might ask Jacques Ouellette to come and meet with council to have discussions. That's the way, that's no problem at all. And he works with villages to create their bylaws and that. But you gotta make sure that any decision that council wants to make, that the Schuller ATV Club is involved in these decisions.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that covers this territory.
Okay, no, let's accept.
And that's why I mentioned earlier I was discussing, and he said he could help us draft our bylaw. So if I was just getting a clear direction before what streets we wanted to do. And again, he noted that, I think it was mentioned here at the meeting that it would be an amendment to our current bylaw. It's not. We have to draft a whole new bylaw. So even the streets that was on there before, like Colney, the section of Mitchell that gets you down to the trail, the section on Mutton and all that there, and the section on Archibald, they would all have to be added to that new, it has to be an absolutely new bylaw, because I think the regulations has changed quite a bit. So he'll help us draft it, and definitely the ATV Club would have to be aware of that, which I'm sure they are, but just to get those streets that we could at least start drafting, and you would have a look at that. The other items were items that Mr. Culligan, I believe, had a couple of things that he was working on in some direction from council. One was the Scots Canada Grow for Good grant program. He did submit a report on that, and as it's noted in his report, he started filling out an application for it. But it comes to find out there's only like 5 grants of $2,500 each that go across Canada. Municipality can't really apply for it. It's for nonprofit organizations. And if there was a nonprofit organization wanted to apply and had a plan for doing that for the gardens, for doing community gardens, then the municipality could partner with them, but it has to come from a nonprofit organization, the application and everything. But they'd have to have a plan in place, because I said there's only 5 $2,500 grants across all of Canada. So you'd have to have a pretty good plan for them to get approved. But if you want to give him further direction on that, I believe he asked if anybody knew of a group that might want to be,
Why
might want to
doesn't
do that.
check with the Beldoon Housing Association and they can apply for the grants for the 2 seniors complexes?
That's a good idea. I like that.
Okay, I'll pass that on to him. And the second one was with this, with the signage that was looking to go along Route 134, directional signage for the salmon barrier. I believe they looked at different things, but the NB Power has some pretty stringent rules when it comes to putting stuff on their poles. Again, his report, I'm trying to see what his report is. His report indicated some of the things that it would cost to do that. Again, they're only allowed to be up there temporarily, 4 weeks at a time. So you would have to expend that kind of money for 4 weeks and have to take it down. So the banners he had come out with us about, for the distance that was talked about, it was like about $5,400 and probably tax on top of that, just for those banners to cover every 2 kilometers on Main Street and back Jacket River Drive. Again, will be a 4-week span, you'd have to take them down. Again, you gotta calculate into that the time for human resources to put those up and the safety, and so you're doing work on the side of the road, so just,
Do you recall what it was to paint on the pole?
pardon.
If we wanted to paint the salmons on the pole,
Yeah,
what
but
was
I
that?
guess you have to figure out on if you look at the pole when you're driving by, what size that could you get on there, it's not gonna be very big.
Well, if we put the salmon like up and down instead of horizontal?
Is it gonna get you your end result? I guess you have to figure out, if the salmon's up and down, does it tell anybody anything?
No.
You know what I mean? If you're looking for directional signage to get them to a certain
It's not
place,
so much direct, like the direction would be you follow the salmon to get to the salmon barrier was my thought process, right? And originally the whole thought process was to put them on the road, so it kind of looks like they're swimming down the road and you follow the salmon to get to the barrier. But now with all of this fiasco, what I'm not understanding is how it is that through these other communities, they've got their poles painted with the Acadian flag and we can't paint a salmon.
there wasn't any said that you couldn't paint it. The gentleman from NB Power was looking to get the details on what you wanted. Did you want a sign, or did you want to paint? And then he's able to go back to the proper authorities and find out what you can do and what you can't do. But he just needed which direction you wanted to go in, I guess, before
Okay.
he could actually give you a firm answer on anything.
Okay, well, this whole thing of only allowing the signs up for 4 weeks, I'm not interested in that. So if we can get some information onto what it would be to paint the salmons on there, then we'll see where that goes, but I mean, I'm not interested in spending $5,000 on it, so.
Follow up with the NB Power rep to see what you need to do to get that request put forward, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move that the meeting is adjourned at 8:10.
You get a seconder? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Just a note, in the future, if you get the public to kind of speak, you're going to have to get them to go to the mic, because the public would not hear any of that conversation. Because if you're not at the mic, it wouldn't have recorded for them. They wouldn't have heard it.